This is Iberian Property Insights, an initiative aimed for those who want to be updated on the Iberian real estate sector. My name is Alexander Lima. Although we tend to think about AI as something of the future, truth to be told, this has a lot of research on its background. It's not that recent, and some of its applications and results are already very visible. To help us understand better how this can be applied to the real estate industry, I'm pleased to welcome in this podcast Nicolas Franco, Director of the AI bootcamp at EA and also Director of AI at Mr. Houston. Nicolas, welcome, and let's start by the basics. What exactly does it mean to be artificial intelligence? I mean, how is this intelligence being generated?
Artificial intelligence in this sense means the ability of do something that is extremely complex in a very easy way, but also in an artificial way. I mean, that is a machine that is doing, is not a person that is doing. So in my point of view, artificial intelligence is really the ability of the machine to perform tasks that for humans are very difficult, and they perform in a very easy way. What does it mean? Most of the time, this tasks are very repetitive, are very, let's say, time-consuming tasks for a human person, for a human being. In this sense, artificial intelligence, what it does, it makes calculations, it makes tasks in a very easy way, very, very fast, and in the sense that no one, or in a very difficult way, can do by their own. Also, in another part, artificial intelligence take into account the programming or the programs or the algorithms that the human are coding, in the sense that also can perform very difficult analytical tasks in a very easy way. That is artificial intelligence. But at the end, is not really, no one agrees on the term of what is artificial intelligence. No one has one definition. But for me, is really the ability to make able to perform this very difficult task in a very easy way by a machine, of course.
Okay. Nicolas, today we are addressing a real estate industry, so very much associated with buildings, with material things, and we tend still to associate in the industry that artificial intelligence is something digital. So I'd like to try with you to do this bridge into our sector and to try to understand in the real estate sphere how intelligence that is generated by machines can help us. So for example, one of the most important things that is currently under discussion in the sector is the green transitioning. So it's underway. We aim to achieve net zero emissions by 2050. Can we adopt this kind of technology and use cases to improve our building process?
Absolutely. Adopting artificial intelligence in the real estate sector can significantly contribute to achieve this sustainability. And there is different stages or different points really that are very important. I would like to focus on this. First of all, energy efficiency optimizations. One of the main points that really we can adopt artificial intelligence is to try to optimize the energy efficiency of the buildings. What does it mean? It means that nowadays most of the building have these electronic devices, let's say, or IoT communication, where they can take a lot of data of when the people are coming in, when they're going out, also the time that they're spending in different parts of the building. So trying to regulate, let's say, the heater, the air conditioner, try to regulate many parts of the buildings, let's say, that are electrically or energetically consumer, are very important in the sense that trying to be much more optimized. The building has to be much more optimized. And what does it mean? In this industry, there's many points that they are trying to focus. One of them is, of course, trying to regulate all the energetic consumption with other points or other, other different factors that are outside of the building. Let's say the temperature, of course, the traffic, of course, the information that is outside the building. Let's say, for example, if it's a strike or there is there's an accident, and in this sense, there is most of the people that are trying to go to the building that will not be able to go on time, or that probably they can, in this sense, they can regulate the lights, regulate the heater, regulate the all what is really energetically consuming. And this is very important. Also, there is another point that is very important, that is the predictive maintenance. Predictive maintenance means that we have to study where the maintenance of the different systems of the building has to be done, and try to also optimize this maintenance in order to be less energetic consuming. Of course, the smart building automation is very, very important, in the sense that most of the buildings now try to adopt many IoTs in order to perform or optimize all the systems. And this, the artificial intelligence can help them to really regulate this automation. And there is 2 points that is very difficult to, or there's not so many people that trying to put in place. That is, one of them is the space utilization. Let's say it's very difficult to, because even mathematically, it's very difficult to adopt a model where the space utilization of a building is optimized. But with artificial intelligence, we can see perfectly, or we can really make some rules or some systems to really optimize this space utilization. And of course, what of the most important, I think, point is to use of urban planning and design of the places where the building has to be built. In this sense, of course, most of this urban planning and design has to be linked with the rules with the different models, urbanistical models. But study with artificial intelligence, we can adopt smart, let's say, models in order to optimize really the planning, so optimize the design of these buildings.
Perfect. So, as I understand, it's a question of, if we can measure it, we can optimize it.
Of course, we have to measure. For artificial intelligence, there is one point that is critical, that is, the more the data we have, the better we have models to try to understand and to perform calculations. I mean, we need to be able to have metrics of everything. We need really to be able to calculate, or to at least grab data from everywhere, from any place, in order to take advantage of those data and having a model, and with this model studying, and after studying, being able to optimize.
This is a key question to investors, as it's about maximizing returns and reducing costs. But another one of the concerns that comes around with these questions of having more data is, are we going to have a reshape of the labor market? Is there any jobs that are threatened by this more introduction of this technology? How can we manage properly in this paradigm shift? Should there be a specific response from any kind of entity, from governance? How can we address this question?
Oh, this is a very big and very, let's say, critical question. Artificial intelligence will transform everything in the future. Not only the jobs, but will transform the society. So we have, first of all, to invest in education and training. We have to invest in order to the people, let them know what is artificial intelligence and how they have to adapt the artificial intelligence. And this is critical because there is many people that they are on an age that for them is very difficult to educate and training on artificial intelligence. But we have to try. It's like, I can understand, for example, I have a father that is 86-year-old, and for him it's very difficult. He doesn't understand what is artificial intelligence, and it's perhaps too late for him. But it's the same that when we start to adopt, the cell phones, the intelligent cell phones. For many people, that was impossible really to understand how they were building, but what were they really working. But at the end, even if you are old, with a certain education and training, you have to be able. And it's very important, this investment in education and training, and it's very important to support transition programs for the people that are in this middle age, that they are not educated in artificial intelligence, in order to take advantage of the artificial intelligence, and also to be able to reorganize their jobs and to stay on the market on a certain level. Is at the end is a question of course, education, and we have to really being convinced that without this education, the people, there will be a certain part of the society that will be a part of the artificial intelligence and will not be able to really have the same jobs than before, and we can have a social problem in this case. So it's very, very important to have this supported transition program, perhaps implementing labor market policies in the sense that the government help them with policies and to preserve the jobs. But I am not sure if preserving the jobs with policies will help them. It will perhaps can help them in the starting point, but we also leave the market much less competitive in this sense. If we want to be competitive, we have really to have a free market, and in this sense, these policies can perhaps reduce the competitiveness. And also, perhaps also, we have to have some ethical and regulatory framework in the sense that adopt artificial intelligence not in every place, but also only on the places that is necessary. And perhaps this regulatory framework will help in the first stage, not to have an adoption of the artificial intelligence very, very quick, but step by step. But of course, it's a very complicated, or at least is a topic that very controversial topic, and there is no single solution. And I think that we have all that to work together. And as I say, for me, the key point is education and training for everybody.
Perfect. A couple of interesting topics that you mentioned, and the first one I would like to pick up on that is you did a comparison between when the cell phone came around. So in your opinion, are we still on that suitcase phone era of a big blob, very old, or are we already on the smartphone era in what regards to artificial intelligence? How evolved are we in this technology?
I mean, this is the first time. Artificial intelligence is like 10 or more than 10 years that is really on the market. But there is only 1 year and a half since ChatGPT that the people start actively to work with artificial intelligence. But even if there was many works done on artificial intelligence, theoretically there's a lot, and also practically there is many years that when you choose a movie on your platform, I mean, they recommend system recommendation. There is a lot, but you are not able to really work with it. You are always, let's say, suffering of the artificial intelligence. And the first time that you are using artificial intelligence and you are really in charge or more really driving the artificial intelligence by your own is now with ChatGPT and those, let's say, copilots that are appearing in the market. So we are in the starting point of artificial intelligence. We have to start. We have to learn how to use it. What are the barriers? What are the things that we can do? We can perform. Are others that we are not able, even if we try to ask one LLM, one of these transformers that are those machines that you can ask and question. You can do ask and questions. There's so many things that you can ask, but the result would be completely wrong. That you have to understand how they are built in order to perform the question correctly. You cannot really, the point now that I want to focus is that most of the people, they use artificial intelligence as a black box without understanding what is happening inside. And without happening there is many dangers. There's many dangers, but it's the same that using the first steps or the first stage when you're using the World Wide Web. I mean, everybody was thinking that everything that was publishing was right. I was coming, to the bank and without any security and without login and password doing exactly the same. And when they first, all the risk that the internet start to attack them is when they take into account that really we have to prevent all those risks. This is the same. We are in the first stage when nobody sees that there is some risk that we have to take aware. And for this, to affront those risks, we have to understand what is artificial intelligence, how it works, and where we can use it, when we can use it. And in this sense, yes, artificial intelligence nowadays is only, can perform some things, but we have to be. There is some risk, and we have to be aware about those risks. And we are in the same. For me, we are in the same step that where the internet started in the years 90, let's say, more or less. That everybody was doing everything by internet. When I was young, I was going to internet, and everything that was published, I was really thinking that was right. I was trusting everything on internet. And I was thinking that there was no risk on putting my address, my cell phone, or putting any information on the internet. And now we understand that there is some risk. It's exactly the same with artificial intelligence. We are at the same step.
That's why you were mentioning some kind of regulation to not make it a so quick process to try to understand this more phase by phase. But let's imagine that in our companies and people who are listening to us, they have green light to implement, as of today, artificial intelligence tools in their daily tasks. What are the basic steps that they can implement to not get to wrong conclusions and to prevent themselves from the most common risks?
Okay, it depends. Artificial intelligence is very vast. It's very huge. Everything that you can do, and it depends on what are you doing and with what technology are you doing. Most of the time, there's many people that for them artificial intelligence are only transformer LLMs, this kind of ChatGPT. The system when you can ask and they give you generatively, they can give you some answers, right answers, or even videos, even music. For a generative situation, when you want to use for generative situation, you have to take into account that most of the information, not most, but this part of the information that is inside can be wrong. And you have to take, this text or this video, and you have to manage it as a draft. And you have to polish, and you have to really try to make it a little bit by your own. It helps you a lot to have in a very nice way, to have a text or put some ideas on a good context. But the information can be wrong. The information, you can ask for KPI, and this KPI can be wrong. If you ask him what is the gross product of Spain, he can give you information for 3 years ago or 1 year ago, and most of the time it doesn't tell you where the information comes from. There is some of the LLMs that give you where the information takes, but most of the time you are not 100% sure. If you ask them for a specific task, most of the time it give you right answer. If you tell them, okay, I want to make a cake, give me what are the recipe for the cake, it give you a good recipe most of the time. Yeah, because it's published in many places, but a specific data, this is what you have to be really careful. This is for the LLMs. When you are using artificial intelligence like machine learning, a little part of deep learning, NLP, or other techniques, in this case, you have to be extremely careful where the data are coming from. I mean, because when you use artificial intelligence, and artificial intelligence really you need is based on the quality of your data. And the quality of your data and what the result of the model that they will give you depends a lot of your data and the study that you are performing, and your mathematical model that you're performing. In this sense, as I say, depends a lot of the data and depends a lot of the mathematics that is behind, all the theory that you are trying to achieve, right? And this is why in artificial intelligence, at the end, depends a lot of the technique that you are using. But most of the time, if you are a user, the only, let's say, or one of the only ways to use artificial intelligence by your own is, as I say, as all those transformers or LLMs. And in this case, you have to try not to ask for a or quantitative question, first of all. Second, you have always to try to prompt in a very specific way. I mean, because the prompting engineering is very important. I mean, the way that you ask the machine is very important. So the result will depend a lot of where the way you are asking. I mean, this prompt engineering is very important. So you have to adapt these techniques to understand how to build it. But I will say that the risk is in the data that you use for a technique that more classical, like machine learning, and the data. If you ask the LLM for a specific data, never trust 100% the data, unless you have your specific machine, your specific LLM, your specific transformer, and this machine is built for a specific task and is trained for a specific task. Let's say if I want to use an LLM for a financial sector, and I want for derivatives, and I perform a specific machine for derivatives in a specific sector, and real estate sector, whatever, the result can be very, very accurate. But I have to build a specific machine and train for specific data. If you take a, let's say, more general machine, I go to a ChatGPT or whatever, and I ask them, the result is not very trustable in the end.
Can I challenge you to give you a context?
An
example to see if it will work. Let's say that I am an investment firm and I build everything from my end. So I feed them all the data, the LLM, so everything specific, and I provide them with a simple task. That is, for example, I want to analyze all the occupancy levels of the buildings. I input the rents of the tenants and the contracts and whatsoever to start and make a decision on which should be the capex, so the investment I'm going to do in improving the buildings in certain amount of years. Would it work to do an optimal decision, or do you think that investors would still try to go with their gut feeling to look at the walls and say, okay, this is needing for a new paint job or wherever, or can we trust 100% on data?
I mean, this is kind of situation that you cannot use an LLM. You have to do really more traditional artificial intelligence. And first of all, if you want to answer your question, and in the sense that what is the best to do in the sense of investment, or what I have to do for my investment, what is important, of course, the data that you have, how much they will pay on all the expenses of the building or whatever. You even not need, artificial intelligence for those data. You can have a model where they tell you when you will have benefits, or there will be a good or bad investment. But, for example, imagine that you have, let's say, the data of the traffic that is very close of the building. Mm-hmm. And you have the data of how many cars are traveling, or how many people are walking outside. And you can more or less have all those data and have a correlation between the amount of people that are passing through the building, and perhaps the amount of people that are coming inside the building. Imagine that in the building you have one space that is a commercial space, and you want to see if how much I can grow, the price of this rent of this local. So depending, one thing that we did is from the commercial centers is try to analyze the people that are traveling in front, the people that are coming inside, and trying to analyze this in function of the weather, in function of the temperature, in function of the light, in function of different factors. If you, at the end, you found a correlation, you can see, okay, I can rent this local much better if I put this light, if I make this much more attractive in a certain way, or if for a certain type of, let's say, shop or industry, they want to say, because this is much better for this type of person. But this kind of correlation as a study depends of factors, of a lot of data that you are crossing, dependence of others that you can grab by your own. I mean, you can say, okay, how many people have spent money in this or pass through, but also I can tell you, you can study many data that you think perhaps they don't affect you, but at the end you can have some correlations and say, okay, when it's sunny, there's a lot of people that are traveling through this street, but when it's cloudy, there's not so many people. So my local is very attractive for 200 days a year, but not for 100 days a year. So I have to try to rent for certain client that wants only for certain days. I don't know too much to have an idea. That what is very important is with data, you can study, make correlations, and have an idea of really what type of data can affect other type of data. And this is what is important, because other case, but you are not able to visualize, to really understand those data. This is what is important in artificial intelligence. That is what is a lot of data in correlations. You can understand and you can see those correlations. Other case is much more difficult. I don't know if you see.
I think it was even further than what I was expecting with my question, but very interesting, because it's not always about improving what you already know. It's about getting to those hidden connections and correlations.
Exactly. It's this hidden connection that even in your mind, you don't assume that there exist those correlations. Mm-hmm. And a model, okay, it has to make sense at the end. No, you have to really to analyze and say, no, those correlations I don't trust. But perhaps there's some correlations that you can trust, and you can say, okay, that's right. That can be really a factor for my business, and this is something that can explain something that I don't understand, or that can be help me to have leverage certain things. This is what is important to help you to understand.
Yeah, the retail store example is very good, because even before I came here to your office, I didn't bring a jacket, and I was like, oh, maybe it's a little bit cold. And the truth is, I chose the sunny side of the sidewalk, and then I visit some of the stores.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
even in the malls, in the market, what they try to do when they modify the heater and the air conditioning in order to, let's say, have a flux of person in a certain way. And most of the time, this you have to manage with studies with artificial intelligence in order to really understand what is the flux of a liquid, how it goes.
Perfect. Nicolas, any final recommendation on how to harness the power of technology that you would like to share with our listeners?
I have many. I mean, for me, if there is only one or two key points that I would like to focus, is first of all, we have to invest in education and training. As I say, it's very, very important, because even if we don't like, even if we don't trust, at the end, artificial intelligence will come to stay, and we have to be able really to work with and to understand what it is. I mean, is a tool, at the end is a tool. It's a tool that we have to be able to manage properly. And this is very important to invest in education and training. Second, it's very important that artificial intelligence has to be focused on problem solving. Let's say nowadays, most of the time, the people sees artificial intelligence like a movie. It's something that is very fancy, is there, I have to adapt, everybody's talking about, but nobody's focusing on the problem solving. It's very, because the problem solving for artificial intelligence are quite difficult to explain and are very mathematically most of the time, and only in the cases of generative AI, in the sense that I want to generate a text, a video, that is very easy to accept. Most of the time, the power of artificial intelligence is very difficult to put really in clear, and the people don't understand how to do it. Try to really have different mathematical models and trying to correlate those models and take advantage of this information in order to optimize your business. This is difficult, and you have really to sit, to analyze, and to invest for this. It's a question of investment on people that understand and invest on technology. That it always is difficult. You have to differentiate between what is an investment and a cost. And this, most of the people think that is a cost. It's not really an investment, but because they don't see the return of investment. And you have to trust that at the end, you will have this return of investment if you understand really your business, if you understand, because you understand your data. This is what is really important. And there's one thing that we have not talked about, that is the ethical considerations. And the ethical consideration of artificial intelligence are very important. There is one in technology, we always say that the United States is building the technology, China is duplicated, and Europe is really making the rules, and this is the problem that we have in Europe. I mean, of course, there is an ethical consideration where to adopt artificial intelligence, but we have to differentiate between what is ethical consideration and regulation. And what I don't think is very good to regulate, as we're using Europe, at the point that we cannot use properly the artificial intelligence. Of course, there is ethical consideration, but also this ethical consideration, we cannot adopt regulation extremely strong in order to have ethical consideration. And after, the consequences are that we cannot really manage properly, we cannot adopt the artificial intelligence in a very agile way. So other countries, other societies in the world will take advantage faster than us in Europe, because the problem of Europe most of the time is the regulation. I think that in Europe we have this stopper always, that is the regulation. And this is 3 points I think that are very important and we have to think about.
A very good wrap-up. Nicolas, thank you. It was a pleasure to welcome you on this podcast. This was Iberian Property Insights, powered by Grupo Iberian.